We were on a mission to go after the #1 leader for Al-Qaeda in the Anbar province.
U.S. troops have just arrived in Anbar province. This is a huge move in the war on ISIS.
And we walked right into that ambush. Myself and several other teammates were shot up by machine gun fire. I was hit 8 times. I lost almost half of my blood. I was incredibly weak. I mean, my head swelled up to almost the size of a basketball. Both eyes were totally bloodshot red. You know, nothing left of my nose except for these orange tubes coming out, stitches.
So when you go back to the SEAL teams for the second time, this is where you get wounded, correct? On September of 2007. Can you just walk through that story?
Yeah, it was the end of our deployment. It was a very intense deployment. You know, many of the guys that I've served with who did other combat deployments said it was probably one of the most intense combat deployments they did. DJ Shipley, who's out there in the spotlight quite a bit now. DJ was one of my teammates that night in that firefight and said out of all the combat he ever was in, that was by far the most intense and violent firefight he was ever in. So we were on a mission to go after the #1 leader for Al-Qaeda in the Anbar province and basically landed on the first target, wasn't there, kind of had a plan. We saw some activity on another building about 150 yards away. We moved on that building. There was some vegetation we needed to push through before we got to the building. And we didn't realize it. The enemy leader's security detail was actually in the other side of that vegetation in an ambush line. And we walked right into that ambush. So myself and several other teammates were shot up by machine gun fire. I was hit 8 times between my body armor, body, helmet, weapon, side plate, and 3 rounds to the body. I took a round to the face, and I took 2 rounds in the left elbow. But very intense gunfight. You know, the 3 of us that were hit within the first 5 minutes, and pinned down. Led to this pretty prolonged, almost 30, somewhere between a 35 to 40 minute gunfight. We survived, only because, the guys fought back. They did an amazing job. I was out front and then pinned down after I got shot in the face. I was pretty much out of the fight within the first 5 minutes, and literally laying under machine gun fire that was traveling about 8 inches over me, and just focused on, hey, stay awake, stay alive. And I had to be patient to let the guys win that gunfight. I mean, it was something we knew. We've trained for that. And my team leader ended up calling in a close air support mission. We had a AC-130 gunship, which is a Air Force amazing air-to-ground offensive platform that probably has saved more lives on the battlefield. I mean, some people, I know a lot of people that play Call of Duty know it. Some people who don't know the military may not be familiar with it, but it is an amazing platform. It saved my life on multiple nights in hairy situations. And on that night, they ended up bringing in the closest fire mission ever executed in the Iraq War. We literally called rounds directly on our position, and thankfully survived. So intense night. But I owe my life to my teammates. I owe my life to that gunship. So,
fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be a one-and-done deal? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and your private parts are over, thanks to our friends at Manscaped. Manscaped is now offering the ultimate package to trim both your beard and the boys downstairs using 2 separate razors, because, I mean, why would you want to use the same razor for both? And so in this package, you'll find the beard hedger. And what really sold me on this is that you can actually pick the setting that you want. And so without even taking off this top part. So you just find the perfect length for you, and then you're all set to go and trim your beard, and it comes out perfectly. And then this right here is the Lawnmower 5.0, and this is for the boys downstairs. You can get 20% off your order and free shipping if you use the code Young and Alive at checkout. Again, if you use the code Young and Alive at checkout, not only do you get 20% off, you also get free shipping on your order. Thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring today's video. Now, how does going to that almost like brink of death? Because if I remember correctly, like you thought it was over. How does that change the way you look at life now?
I think the biggest thing, I have another shirt, and no bad days. So it's one of the lines of clothing that I have. And coming that close to death makes you appreciate life and gives you a perspective on life. There were a lot of deep thoughts I had in the 30 minutes as I was bleeding out, where I was facing the prospect of dying. So now it changed me in many ways. I mean, I'm much more grateful for the things that I have. I have great perspective. I very rarely, I can be an emotional guy. I can get, I can let my emotions boil up like anybody, but I'm quick to pull myself back in check, especially in situations that I'm like, this is nothing. I watch people who lose their minds over the simplest things that really is no big deal. Like, my Starbucks got delivered late, or you misspelled my name on my Starbucks cup, or, my flight's delayed, or whatever it is, and that's just weak perspective. I meet so many people who talk about, oh, I'm having a bad day. And the reality is they're not really having a bad day. They're having a schedule disruption. Their day did not unfold in the manner that they had planned it or they thought it was going to. That's not a bad day. I define a bad day as anything that will forever leave physical, mental, emotional, or deep, deep financial scars. And if it doesn't meet that criteria, it's not that big a deal. So why are you going to let it negatively impact you? And more importantly, why are you going to negatively impact all the people around you? So I try to do my best to be positive and to, lean into people and not allow little situations like that to get the best of me. I tell people, if you woke up this morning, it's a good day. It's up to you to make it a great day. It doesn't mean you won't have hard days or tough days. It just means that every day you wake up is a gift. I don't know why I got to come home. I got so many friends who didn't. These are all the guys I personally knew who I either served with or I directly work with that did not come home. And most of them were way better SEALs than me. So why did I get to come home and they didn't? So I now try and live my life to be the best version of myself because I owe it to them, in my opinion. And I try and tell this to anybody that's ever lost someone. Like, hey, instead of, obviously you're going to miss them, but man, become the greatest version of yourself and honor them. Like, that is the greatest way you could honor and tribute them in this life. And that should be your fuel, man. That should be your burn.